Kayla had been warned many times before leaving her homeworld. Humans are strange, her advisor told her. They smile too much, they speak too casually, and they touch. Never let them touch you. In her culture, touch was sacred. Only family and chosen partners could share physical contact. Even a friendly gesture without permission was seen as offensive. Yet here she was, standing in the grand hall of Earth's central station, face to face with a human who ignored every law of her people. Captain Ryan Holley looked nothing like the cold, distant diplomats Kayla had met on other worlds. He wore a formal uniform, yes, but his easy smile and bright eyes were nothing like the stiff faces of her council. When he stepped forward, Kayla prepared for the traditional bow, the respectful gesture she was taught humans would return. But instead, he spread his arms wide and hugged her. It was quick, maybe 3 seconds at most. But for Kayla, it felt endless. Her mind screamed at her to pull back, to protest, to do something, but her body refused to move. The warmth of his arms, the strength of his hold, the soft fabric of his jacket pressing against her, none of it felt wrong. It felt different. Too different. When Ryan finally stepped back, still smiling, he said, "Welcome to Earth, Princess Kayla. It's an honor to meet you." Kayla stared at him, speechless. Her 2 guards hissed in anger, their claws twitching near their belts. One of them growled in their language. Unacceptable. He touched the princess. Ryan raised his hands quickly. "Whoa, easy. It's just a greeting." We hugged to show respect, nothing more. Kayla swallowed hard, trying to calm her racing heartbeat. She wanted to correct him, to tell him that he had just broken a sacred custom, but the words would not come out. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "A greeting?" "Yes," Ryan said, his tone gentle now, as if sensing her confusion. "A hug means warmth, trust, and welcome." Warmth, trust, welcome. Words that sounded simple, yet they struck something deep inside her. On her world, gestures were cold, formal, calculated. A bow was duty. A salute was power. A touch was forbiddance. But this felt nothing like power, nothing like duty. Kayla nodded slowly, her silver eyes fixed on him. "I see." The other humans in the hall didn't seem shocked at all. They exchanged cheerful smiles as if everything was normal. For them, maybe it was. For her, everything had changed in a single moment. The meeting moved forward as planned, or at least, that's what it looked like on the surface. Kayla walked beside Ryan through the gleaming corridors of the station, her advisors trailing behind, their eyes sharp and full of warning. Ryan spoke about Earth, about the coming treaty, about the promise of peace. His voice was calm, smooth, almost playful. Kayla tried to listen. She really did, but her mind was elsewhere. Every time his hand moved, her eyes followed. When he laughed softly at something his aide said, her heart gave a strange little jump. And when the memory of his arms around her returned, her throat tightened. Why did it feel like this? Why couldn't she forget that brief moment? On her planet she had been, touched before ceremonially, by elders or family during rituals. Those touches were cold and scripted. This hug, it felt alive. When they reached the main hall for the official talks, Kayla stood before a long table of human and alien leaders. Cameras hovered silently, recording the first steps toward alliance. Her advisor leaned in, whispering harshly, "Do not let him touch you again. If you shame your house, Kayla, there will be consequences." Kayla nodded slowly, but her chest felt heavy. She didn't know why, but a small, rebellious thought whispered inside her mind. "I didn't hate it." As the speeches began, Ryan glanced at her from across the table. For a brief moment, their eyes met. He smiled, not the diplomatic kind, but a warm, human smile that reached his eyes. And just like that, Kala's world tilted again. That night, Kyla sat in her quarters, staring at her reflection in the polished glass. She lifted her hand, touching the place where his arm had held her. Her skin still felt warm, as if the memory of his body lingered there. "This is wrong," she whispered to herself. "This is dangerous." But deep down, another voice answered, softly, "Then why do you want to feel it again?" The council chamber glittered with light from a dozen banners, each carrying the emblems of different worlds. The air smelled faintly metallic, the way it always did inside human stations. Voices filled the room, official voices, cold and formal, arguing about trade routes, defense alliances, and laws that would take months to approve. Kayla heard none of it. She sat straight, her hands folded on the polished table, her expression calm and unreadable, just as her training demanded. But inside, her thoughts ran wild, not about the treaty, not about the weapons embargo, not even about the threats her advisor had whispered into her ear an hour ago. No, her mind was stuck on something much smaller, something foolish, something human. Why did it feel good? Her skin still remembered the warmth of his arms. Her chest still felt that strange, heavy thrum when he had smiled at her. No alien custom could explain it. No ritual could name it. She wanted to ask him, wanted to demand an answer, but even the thought of forming those words made her stomach twist. What would he think if she asked? That she was weak? Curious? Or worse, interested? She lowered her gaze quickly, afraid her eyes might betray what her tongue could not. Captain Ryan Hawley spoke confidently at the far end of the table. His voice was smooth, carrying a tone of calm assurance. Humans had a way of sounding casual, even during war talks. "Our goal," he said, meeting the eyes of the alien delegates, "is not just peace on paper, but trust in practice. We want more than words. We want understanding. Understanding." The word made Kella's heart stumble. Did he understand what he had done to her? Did he know how badly that one gesture had shattered every wall she had built for years? She dared to glance at him. He caught her eye and smiled. It wasn't the diplomatic smile humans wore when cameras rolled. This one was small, private, almost like a secret. Kayla looked away so quickly, her crown nearly slipped. The speeches dragged on for another hour. Her advisors kept feeding her scripted responses through a discreet channel in her ear. She replied perfectly, every syllable crisp and proper. But her mind was elsewhere, lost in that single forbidden question. When the session finally ended, the delegates dispersed in groups, their voices low and sharp like blades. Kayla rose slowly, her long gown whispering across the floor. Ryan approached her with an easy stride. "Princess Kayla," he said, his tone light, "you did great in there. First contact isn't easy, but you handled it like a pro." She blinked at him, startled by the warmth in his voice. "It is my duty," she said softly. He grinned. "Duty or not, you impressed everyone." She opened her mouth. This was her chance. She could ask him. She could finally demand to know why he had hugged her, why humans did such strange things, why she had felt what she felt. But then her advisor's voice hissed from behind. "Princess." Now, Kayla froze. Her advisor stood in the doorway, eyes like knives. Ryan noticed the tension. "Everything okay?" he asked, concern flickering across his face. "Yes," Kayla said quickly, bowing her head slightly. "Thank you, Captain Hal." She turned and walked away, her heart pounding harder than before. That night, her quarters felt colder than ever. The stars beyond the window shimmered like shards of ice. Kayla sat before her console, recording her private log in a whisper. "Today," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "the human greeted me in their way my people would call it an insult. Yet, she hesitated, biting her lip. Yet I did not feel insulted. I felt something else, something I cannot name. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling the rhythm of her heart, faster than normal, uneasy. Alive. Her voice lowered to a near whisper. Why do I want him to do it again? The recorder blinked red as it saved her words, a secret she prayed no one would ever hear. Far away, in his own quarters, Ryan leaned against the wall, staring at the ceiling. He had seen the look in her eyes, confusion, fear, and something else he couldn't quite read. Did I make a mistake? He muttered to himself. Or did I start something I can't stop? The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the station's engines. Kayla stood near the tall window, her eyes on the swirling blue planet below. Earth, beautiful, but dangerous. She had learned that today. Behind her, the door slid open with a hiss. Her advisor, Varen, stepped inside. His tall frame cast a long shadow on the polished floor. His face was tight, his voice sharper than ever. You shamed us, Varen said. Do you understand what you have done? Kayla turned slowly. Her silver eyes were calm, but inside, her chest burned with unease. I did nothing wrong, she said softly. Nothing wrong? Varen's voice rose. You let him touch you, in front of cameras. The council saw everything. Her fingers curled at her sides. He surprised me. I could not stop him. Varen stepped closer, his tone low and dangerous. Surprised or not, they will twist this against you. They will say, you invited it, that you broke sacred law. If you repeat this mistake, Princess, the treaty will die, and with it, our peace. Kayla swallowed hard. I understand. But deep down, she didn't. Or maybe she did and hated it. Why should one simple gesture carry so much weight? Why? Should warmth feel like betrayal? The warning didn't end there. Varen leaned close, his voice now a whisper, meant only for her. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Humans are cunning, he said. They smile while hiding knives. That man Hale, he is not your friend. He wants something. They always do. Kayla said nothing. She couldn't, because if she spoke, he might hear the truth in her voice. Truth that Hale's smile had not felt like a weapon, but like light in a dark room. Varen studied her face, suspicion flickering in his eyes. At last, he straightened. Keep your distance, he ordered. One wrong move, and this station becomes a battlefield. Then he left, the door sliding shut behind him with a cold hiss. Kayla stood alone, staring at the stars beyond the glass. Her chest felt heavy, like a stone pressed against her ribs. She told herself Varen was right, that the human was a threat, that his touch was poison. So why did it still feel warm? Hours later, she found herself walking through the silent corridors of the station. The artificial lights glowed soft gold, casting long shadows on the walls. Her footsteps echoed softly, quick and uncertain. She told herself she was going to the observation deck to clear her mind, to breathe. But when she turned the corner and saw him standing there, leaning casually against the railing, she froze, Ryan Hall, alone, looking out at the stars as if they belonged to him. He heard her steps and turned, smiling that same warm smile that had haunted her all day. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, his voice easy, friendly, like they weren't two leaders standing on the edge of war. Kyla hesitated. Her throat felt dry. No, she admitted quietly. Big day, Ryan said. He didn't move closer, but his presence filled the space like sunlight. First contact, speeches, politics, must be exhausting. She nodded slowly. Yes. Silence stretched between them, soft but tense. Kayla's mind screamed at her to leave to obey Varen's warning, to protect the treaty, but her feet didn't move. Instead, she found herself asking the question that had burned inside her since the moment he touched her. Why? She said softly. Ryan tilted his head. Why what? Why? Did you do that? The gesture. Her voice almost broke on the word. He understood immediately. His smile softened. The hug? Kala's chest tightened. She nodded once, unable to speak. Ryan looked out at the stars, his voice gentle. Because that's what we do. When we meet someone important, when we want them to feel welcome, we hug. It's not about power or politics. It's about saying, you're safe here. Safe. The word hit her like a pulse through her veins. No one had ever said that to her, not on her world, not in her palace, not in her entire life. Wanted me to feel safe? She whispered. Ryan's eyes met hers, steady and warm. Yeah, that's all. For a moment, the silence wasn't tense anymore. It was something else, something deep and fragile. Then Kala heard a sharp sound down. The corridor footsteps. Voices. She stepped back instantly, panic flashing in her eyes. Princess? Viren's voice. Close. Too close. Ryan's jaw tightened. Go, he whispered. Before he sees you here. Kala hesitated only a second before slipping into the shadows, her heart pounding as she vanished down the hall. Ryan stared after her, a thought burning in his mind. Why does it feel like keeping her safe just became the most important thing in the galaxy? Asterisk Kyla had told herself 100 times not to come. The corridor was quiet, the lights dimmed to a soft glow as the station shifted to night cycle. Her bare footsteps made no sound on the smooth floor, yet her heart pounded like thunder in her ears. One wrong move and Varen would know. The council would know. The treaty would shatter like glass. And still, she was here standing in front of his door. Kala raised her hand, hesitated, then lowered it again. Her breath came fast and shallow. What was she doing? Why had she come? She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more a question she needed answered. But deep inside, she knew that was only part of the truth. She wanted to see him dot her hand, lift it again, and tap the panel. A soft chime echoed. The door slid open, revealing Captain Ryan. Holly in a simple shirt, his hair slightly messy, his expression startled. Kala? He said, blinking. Is everything? May I come in? She asked quickly, her voice low and tense. Ryan hesitated only a second before stepping aside. Yeah, sure. The door slid shut behind her, sealing them in silence. The room was warm, filled with a faint scent of Earth Flower's digital replicas, glowing in a small glass case. Kala stood near the center, her hands clasped tightly, her silver eyes shifting nervously. Ryan moved slowly, careful not to startle her. You look upset. Did something happen? She shook her head. No, I needed to speak with you. He nodded, waiting. Kala swallowed hard. Her voice was barely a whisper. When you said that word earlier, safe, did you mean it? Ryan's brow furrowed. Of course I did. He stepped closer, his tone gentle. I'd never hurt you, Kala. I'd never let anyone hurt you either. Something broke inside her, then a wall she didn't know she had. For years, she had been told that strength meant distance, that power meant silence, that warmth was weakness. And yet, standing here with this human who spoke, so simply, so honestly, she felt more alive than ever. Why? She asked softly. Why would you care? I am not your kind. Ryan smiled faintly. Because being different doesn't mean being alone. Kala's breath caught. She had no answer for that. None at all. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the station seemed louder in the quiet. Then Ryan said, You've been carrying a lot, haven't you? All those rules, all that pressure. Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever seen her like that. He extended his hand slowly, as if offering something fragile. You don't have to carry it right now. Not here. Not with me. Kayla stared at his hand. Her pulse roared in her ears. If she touched him again, there would be no turning back, and yet her fingers moved on their own, sliding into his palm. Warm, strong, steady. Ryan stepped closer, closing the space between them. You're safe, he whispered again. Kala's eyes burned as something deep inside her gave way. Then, hold. She said softly. Ryan didn't hesitate. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and this time, she didn't freeze. She didn't fight. She leaned into him, her head resting against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in her life, Kayla felt what her people had never taught her, the meaning of peace. They stayed like that. For a long time, the world outside forgotten. But peace never lasts. The soft click of a camera broke the silence. Kayla jerked back, her eyes wide with terror. A door frame glowed faintly. Someone had opened it just enough to slip in a small recording device. A tiny red light blinked before vanishing into the shadows. Ryan swore under his breath. Someone saw us. Kayla's blood ran cold. Varen, she whispered. He warned me, if anyone knew. Ryan's jaw hardened. Then we'll deal with it. But Kayla shook her head, fear clawing at her chest. No, you don't understand. This isn't just scandal. It's war. As the door sealed again, the room felt smaller, darker. Somewhere beyond these walls, a secret was already racing toward the council. A secret that could burn everything. To Ashes and Kayla, trembling in Ryan's arms, knew the truth. She had made her choice. Kayla couldn't stop shaking. The red blink of that spy device burned in her memory like fire. Somewhere, someone already had proof of what she had done, what they had done. She stood near the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the endless black of space. Beyond those stars, her world waited, a world that would punish her for this. Ryan watched her quietly from across the room. His jaw was tight, his eyes shadowed with thought. He had seen the same thing she had. A camera, a silent thief in the dark. We need to talk, he said finally, his voice low. Kayla turned slowly. Her face was pale, her silver eyes filled with fear. It is too late, she whispered. They know. Ryan shook his head. Maybe they know something, but they don't know everything. He stepped closer, his voice firm. Kayla, look at me. She did and wished she hadn't, because when his eyes caught hers, the fear inside her cracked, and something else rose in its place. I don't care what they say, Ryan said. What happened between us, what you felt, it wasn't wrong. Her throat tightened. You do not understand. My people will not forgive this. They will call me a traitor. They will. Her voice broke, the words scattering like glass. Ryan closed the distance between them, slow, steady. He lifted his hand. This time, when he reached for her, Kayla didn't pull away. Asterisk. His palm cupped her cheek gently, his thumb brushing the edge of her jaw. Warm, steady, real. Kayla's breath hitched. Her skin burned where he touched her, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was something deeper, something she had never felt before. Her voice was a whisper. Why? Does this feel so right? Ryan smiled faintly. Because it is. For a long heartbeat, the universe outside vanished. There was only the quiet hum of the station and the rhythm of two hearts beating too fast. Ryan's hand slid slowly to her shoulder. Kayla leaned forward before she could stop herself, resting her forehead against his chest. His arms wrapped around her, not like before, not a greeting, but something stronger, something that promised safety even in the storm. Her eyes closed. For the first time in her life, Kyla felt free. "Ryan," she whispered, almost afraid. To speak his name. "I'm here," he murmured back. They stayed like that for what felt like forever. But forever never lasts. The door burst open with a violent hiss. Kayla jerked back, her breath catching in her throat. Ryan turned sharply, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm, only to freeze when he saw who stood in the doorway. Veyr, ein. His silver eyes blazed like molten steel, his cloak swirling like a shadow. Behind him stood two alien guards, their weapons drawn and ready. "Princess Kayla," Viren said coldly, his voice slicing through the silence like a blade. "You have broken every sacred law of your people." Kayla's blood turned to ice. "Viren, silence," he roared. "Do you know what you have done? You have shamed your house. You have dishonored your crown. And now you will pay." He turned his gaze on Ryan, his voice dripping with venom. "And you, human, you will die for touching what was never yours." Ryan stepped forward, his jaw like stone. "If you want her, you go through me." Viren sneered. "Gladly." The guards moved fast. Ryan faster. In one smooth motion, he yanked Kayla behind him and drew his sidearm. The first guard lunged. Ryan fired, the shot slicing through the alien's armor and sending him crashing to the floor. The second guard swung a blade. Ryan blocked, twisting hard, using the man's momentum to slam him against the wall. The weapon clattered to the ground. Kayla's breath came in ragged gasps. She had seen battles before, but never like this, never for her. Ryan turned to her, urgency burning in his eyes. "We have to go. Now. But no time." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the side door. Behind them, Viren's roar echoed like thunder. "You cannot run from your blood, Kayla. There is no place in the stars where I will not find you." They ran through the narrow corridors, alarms beginning to wail. Kayla's mind spun like a storm. Everything was gone, her status, her safety, her people. She had crossed a line that could never be undone. And yet, as Ryan's grip tightened around her hand, one truth burned brighter than all the fear. She didn't regret it. Not for a single heartbeat. The corridor lights flickered red as alarms. Screamed across the station. Kayla's heart pounded like a drum as Ryan pulled her forward, their footsteps echoing in the empty hall. Behind them, distant shouts grew louder, alien voices sharp with rage. "Almost there," Ryan said, his grip firm on her wrist. "Escape pods are 2 decks down." Kayla's breath came in gasps. "Ryan, if they catch us—" "They won't," he cut in, his voice like steel. "I'm not losing you." Those words struck something deep inside her, even as fear clawed at her bones. No one had ever said that to her, not her council, not her guards, not even her family. "I'm not losing you, but fate has its own plans." They turned a corner, and the world exploded in pain. Something struck Kayla hard from the side, sending her crashing to the floor. Her vision blurred. Strong hands grabbed her arms, yanking them behind her back. "Kayla!" Ryan roared, spinning around only to be slammed by a blast from a shock rifle. His body jerked as electricity ripped through him, sending him sprawling. To the ground. "No!" Kayla screamed, fighting against the iron grip of the guards. A cold, cruel laugh filled the hall. Viren stepped forward, his cloak billowing like a shadow. "You should have listened, Princess," he hissed. "I warned you what would happen." Kayla thrashed, but the guards were too strong. Her wrists were locked in magnetic cuffs, heavy and unbreakable. "Do not hurt him," she cried, her voice raw. Viren's silver eyes gleamed with malice. "Oh, I won't kill him yet, not until he watches you fall." Ryan groaned, trying to rise, but another blast sent him crashing back down. Varen stepped closer, lifting Callus. Chin with 2 cold fingers. "Do you know what they call you now?" He whispered. "Traitor. Disgrace. You will kneel before the council and beg for forgiveness, or your human dies screaming." Kayla's breath trembled. Her heart screamed. To fight, to run, to do something. But for the first time in her life, she felt powerless. They dragged her through the steel corridors, Ryan's unconscious form carried by 2 guards. The station lights flashed crimson, warning everyone that chaos had begun. Kala's thoughts spun like a storm. She remembered the warmth of Ryan's arms, his promise, "You're safe." And now, here she was chained, broken, and more lost than ever. When they reached the docking bay, Kayla saw the ship waiting, a black craft lined with shimmering ruins of her people. A prison ship. "No," she whispered, digging her heels into the floor. "Please, don't take him. Let him go." Varen's voice was cold as the void. "He dies when I say. Until then, you will watch." They shoved her into the ship's cold metal hold, locking her behind an energy barrier. Chains coiled around her arms and legs, glowing with suppression fields that made her limbs feel heavy. She slumped against the wall, her breath ragged, her heart shattering into pieces. This is the end, she thought. I have doomed him. I have doomed myself. Hours passed, maybe more. Time had no meaning in that frozen cell. Kayla stared at the energy wall, her mind a war zone of fear and rage. She hated Varen. She hated the chains. But most of all, she hated herself for what she had brought upon Ryan. When the door hissed open again, she lifted her head, and her blood turned cold. Ryan, but not the Ryan she knew. They dragged him in like a broken doll, his face bloodied, his hands bound. His uniform was torn, his breath shallow. "Ryan!" Kayla cried, slamming against the barrier. "No. What have you done to him?" Varen stepped into view, his smile sharp as a blade. "A lesson," he said. "One your human friend will remember if he survives." He turned to the guards. "Prepare the jump to the council fleet. They will enjoy seeing their princess brought low." Then he leaned close to Kayla, his voice a venomous whisper. "You thought a hug meant freedom? Foolish girl. Now you'll learn what chains truly feel like." The door slid shut, leaving Kayla in darkness, with Ryan barely conscious on the other side of the glowing wall. "Kayla." His voice was weak, broken. Tears burned her eyes. She pressed her hands against the barrier. "I'm here. I'm so sorry." Ryan managed a faint smile through the blood on his lips. "Don't apologize. We're not done yet." Kyla's breath caught. "Ryan, they'll kill you. They'll kill us both." His smile didn't fade. "Not if I get there first." Then his eyes closed, but not in defeat. Kayla saw it, even through the pain. The fire still burned, and in that moment, chained and helpless, she made a silent vow. "If I have to tear down the stars to save him, I will." The chamber was a cathedral of power-towering pillars of black stone, silver light cutting across the polished floor, banners of Kayla's people hanging like silent judges. Rows of alien counselors filled the room, their faces carved from ice. Soldiers lined the walls, rifles gleaming. At the center stood Kayla, bound in chains that shimmered with suppression energy. She lifted her head slowly, her silver eyes hollow with exhaustion, but burning with a quiet fire. Before her, Varen stood, tall, his voice cold and commanding as it echoed across the hall. "Here is your princess," he declared, gripping her chain. "She broke our sacred law. She embraced a creature of another kind. For this disgrace, there is only one path. Her life is forfeit." The council murmured in grim agreement. Their voices were like hissing storms, filling the air with doom. Kayla's hands tightened into fists. She had prepared for this. Death did not scare her. But what chilled her to the bone was the thought that Ryan might already be gone, torn apart in some dark corner of the ship. His blood spilled for her mistake. Then the chamber doors opened. The sound was soft, a hiss of steel, and yet it struck. Like thunder, heads turned. Voices stilled. Ryan Hall-I walked in. Every eye followed him as he crossed the vast hall, his steps slow but steady. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, blood staining his jaw. But his spine was straight, his gaze unbroken. He carried no weapon, no guards, nothing but himself, and something else, the council had never seen before. Peace. The soldiers raised their rifles, but Viren lifted a hand. Let him come, he sneered. If the human wants to die, let him do it with dignity. Ryan stopped a few feet from Kayla, his eyes locking on hers. For a long burning heartbeat, the world faded, the council, the guards, the chains. There was only him. Kayla, he said softly, and his voice was a lifeline. Her throat tightened. Ryan, why did you come? He smiled faintly, his eyes warm even through the pain. Because I promised I wouldn't lose you. Varen's laughter cracked through the silence. You think words will save you, human? You have no army, no allies. You are nothing. Ryan turned his head, his voice calm but strong enough to carry. You're wrong. He spread his arms wide. No shields, no blades. Just a gesture so simple, so human, it shook the chamber like an earthquake. A hug. Gasps rippled through the council. Murmurs rose like a storm. What is he doing? Is this madness? Ryan's voice cut through the noise like a blade of light. You think strength is in walls, in rules, in fear. But real strength, the kind that changes worlds, looks like this. He looked at Kayla. It looks like trust. Viren snarled, his voice dripping with fury. Enough, kill him. Soldiers raised their weapons. Kayla moved. A sound that was half roar, half cry. She tore against her chains. The suppression fields burned her skin, pain lancing through every nerve, but she didn't stop. With a crack like lightning, the restraints shattered, sending sparks across the floor. The chamber froze in stunned silence as Kayla stepped forward, her gown torn, her wrists bleeding, her eyes blazing like molten silver. She crossed the space between them and walked into Ryan's arms. The world seemed to stop. Gasps echoed through the hall as Kayla pressed herself against the human, her head resting against his chest, her arms locking around him with fierce, unyielding strength. For a heartbeat, there was no war, no council, no rules. Only two souls defying an empire. Ryan held her close, his voice low against her ear. I've got you. Kayla trembled not with fear, but with something stronger than any law. And I will never let them take you, she whispered back. When she turned to face the council, her voice carried like thunder. I am Kayla, daughter of the crown, heir to the silver throne. And I choose this human. Her words struck like fire. If you call that weakness, then know this weakness just broke your chains. The council erupted in chaos, shouts, protests, threats, but it was too late. Something had shifted. Soldiers hesitated. Advisors whispered. The image of their princess breaking sacred bonds for something as simple, as pure, as a hug, it burned through centuries of cold tradition like a rising sun. Viren lunged forward, his face twisted with rage. You will destroy us all. Kayla met his fury with ice. No, I will save us. Then she turned, her fingers lacing with Ryan's, and together they walked out of the chamber, not as prisoner and protector, but as equals. Behind them, silence fell. Not the silence of death, but the silence of a world about to change. And as they stepped into the bright corridors beyond, Ryan whispered with a smile, "Guess a hug really can start a revolution." Kayla laughed softly, tears shining in her eyes. "And finish one? Asterisk the end,"